We are at the Albany International Airport to pick up a VIP of the three-wheeler community. Yeah, there he is. I see him. What's up, Bubba? Welcome back to This Old Trike. Today we have Curtie Eldridge in the house, and we're going to do some long overdue tuning work, we'll say. Curtie is on site, special visit. Picked him up at the airport yesterday to look at this 250R we built. The carburetor, as you know, came from Curtie, 223cycles.net, and I'm ignorant. I haven't been able to figure it out. So we're gonna
get that thing dialed properly.
We're gonna do a couple videos. One is dialing this in, and another is just general carburetor knowledge. He and I were having a skull session last night, and the things that you might think would work on a carburetor as the novice, he's telling me are totally backwards of what you think. So stay tuned for that. That'll be a totally different video, but let's get that 250R in the shop right now.
Down, the auto got a little higher.
Yeah.
We're on the right track with the transfer. Right here is going to off-idle throttle response up to half throttle.
Okay.
How responsive it is.
Okay.
I think that bottom end's dialed.
Okay, so we were talking while it was running.
Uh-huh.
So can you give us a synopsis of what you just did?
So right here we were mixing the air screw. It's on the airbox side of the carburetor, so that means it's an air screw. If your mixture screw is on the engine side, that means it's a fuel screw. And what that's doing is adjusting the amount of air allowed into the pilot circuit.
Now this carb, if it was a stock 250R 85 carb, choke setup would be different, but would it have the air screw in the same spot? Or is that unique to this carburetor?
Well, similar, it would be on the airbox side, making it an air screw.
Okay.
Most of your 4-stroke carbs have a fuel screw, like your 200s, 250s, and they're down here on the bottom.
Okay.
And that adjusts how much fuel you're letting through that circuit. This adjusts how much air you're letting through the circuit.
Okay.
So now, let's see where we ended up being at, because once you get it set, we're going to count the turns in. Here's a half turn. Here's 1 turn. So a turn in 3/8.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3/8. So what I'm trying to figure out here is, do I need to adjust the pilot jet? If we're more than, say, 3.5 turns out on this air screw, that means we need to adjust the pilot jet. If we're less than a half turn out from close, we need to adjust the pilot jet the other way.
Okay.
So if we're more than 3.5, that means we need to drop our pilot jet, because we're having to add so much air to correct the pilot jet. If we're below a half a turn, we have to go the opposite.
So if you got to add more air than that will allow to correct the pilot jet. So let me guess what that means.
You're adding
so
more
screwed
air
up
to compensate too much fuel, right?
Too much fuel, so you got to back your fuel down. Smaller.
We got to back the pilot jet down 1 step. Now, if we're less than a half a turn out, so it's running its best, its highest idle is between barely correct and a half turn out, well, then we're needing to increase the pilot jet, because it's not getting enough fuel, and what you're doing is you're cutting off the air to that circuit.
Yeah.
Almost all the way closed to compensate for that.
Okay. That makes sense. So we got to bring this in the shop.
Now it's 100% opposite if you have a fuel screw.
Gotcha.
So if we're 3.5 turns out on a fuel screw, which is on the engine side of the carburetor, that means we need to drop.
Yep. Okay. I'm glad this is on video. This is a lot to remember. Let's bring her in the shop. Okay. So before we wheeled this in, Curtie had me pull the airbox lid and do a couple speed runs, and so that introduced. I'll try to.
Well, we did do a couple speed runs before.
Yes.
I could tell. Okay, we need to make a change. So a quick way to tell which direction we need to make that change is just pull the airbox lid off, and obviously you don't want to run it without the airbox lid, but pulling the airbox lid will lean it out quite a bit. So that'll tell you, does it make it worse? Does it make it better?
Yeah.
In this case, it made it a little better, which tells us we need to drop the main jet.
Okay. And neither of us can remember what main jet is in there, because we've been dinking around with this over the course of about 6 months. So, which is a good time to tell the story. So Curtie sent me this carburetor 2 years ago. At least 2 years ago, when I started working on this pretty hot and heavy. But my projects get completed at a snail's pace. So it took a while to get it on, and I finally got the carburetor on in about May in preparation to bring it to Trike Fest, and it wasn't quite opening up. Well, it definitely was not opening up, and there was a grounding issue that we fixed that was probably playing a part. And basically what Curtie said is, when we get to Trike Fest, let's camp out near each other and we'll get it taken care of. That's a great idea.
It's a wonderful idea.
But Curtie is like Trike Fest celebrity for carburetors. And for some reason, people want to talk to me a lot. So it's not the best. It's a great thought.
We tried our best.
We did. He wrote it one time. He goes, yeah, this isn't running right. And that was that. And he said, when we get together at your place in August, we'll take care of it. I was like, that's a great idea. Same issues. Me and Curtie and about 250 of our closest three-wheeler friends, we get busy and tied up. And so he said, let me fly up sometime this fall and we'll dial it in. Because I'm in New York, Curtie's in Tennessee, and I said, that seems a little excessive, Curtie. Do we really need to do that? And then I thought,
we'd have to do that.
the mud flats. So he's up here for the weekend. We're going to do a mud flats ride. We're going to shoot lots of video. And now back to your regularly scheduled carburetor programming. So I've been sitting here watching Curtie work. It's beautiful. This is like, this is, couldn't be better.
Right.
He's moved the clip up on my needle, which lets the needle go down because it was running too rich. Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I'm so excited.
we're getting there.
And now he's going to put a smaller main jet in.
And kind of just take a look inside too, make sure. Because I noticed a little bit of trash.
MRC builds would call that debris.
Debris. There is a little debris in there.
There's a little debris in there.
So that could be coming from, most of the time it comes from a gas jug. Stuff settling in your gas jug.
Yeah. Does it say what size is in there? Can't you see it yet?
My old eyes? 152.
152. What are you used to seeing in 250R motors?
Well, see, that's when it comes to, especially a two-stroke, there's so many variables that there is not a really kind of a uniform jetting to where your jetting that's going to work perfect on this 250R would be horrible on your other 250R. Each one is a bit unique, and it comes down to the health of the engine, of course, what air filter you're running, airbox situation, all the way down to the fuel and mix ratio you're running, all have an effect. Yeah, hanging out right there. That's what stops up pilot jets.
Schmutz.
Schmutz.
So I had been running the clear acrylic bowl on this, but Curtie said, while we're getting it dialed in, to move back to this so we can drain it.
What makes it easier, just adjusting the main jet, you pop this off,
Yeah.
pop the other main jet on, which would have been the case here, but I really wanted to go ahead and pull everything apart.
Do an inspection. Has there been anything that has surprised you about this carburetor and machine yet? Unexpected things? Or is this just what you're used to? Normal?
Normal. Now, you move from this area. Oh,
oh, you're looking for this?
This is the life and times of getting old. You literally have something in your hands and you go grab it. I didn't move from this area. Where did it go? All right, so now we need to scavenge some jets.
Okay, I think I have some over here. So Dr. Eldridge has called for a 148 main. We just obtained one of those and have popped it in. He's checking the idle.
Oh, I like jet. 42. We need to write that down.
42.
It's partially clogged.
Oh. Well, Curtie and I were working, and then the boys came out here, and they've built these gas-powered bicycles. They bought some cheap Walmart Huffy beach cruiser style bikes for about $125 a piece. And how much were the motors? 140. So they're in it less than $300. And what's cool is they built these themselves. I provided just the smallest bit of input, and it's pretty cool. Good job, Finley. Finley's we've had to do some arts and crafts on. His exhaust, his frame had a little bigger main tube, so we've had to do some things because of that, but we won't point out all the flaws. Curtie has walked over to the camper, probably to grab a tasty beverage. We just did some speed runs on this with the changes that he made. Now we're going to put a fresh plug in it and ride it and see what the plug tells us. And that's the story. We'll report back soon. So we just put a fresh plug in it and run it a little bit. And Curtie is observing. We got color on this half, but this half doesn't have much color.
Yeah, it could be just a little more runtime. We didn't really run it very long. But we're definitely on the right track.
Do we want to make any changes to it or just run it more?
I'm going to adjust the main needle.
Okay.
And run it some more.
All right.
So
because, why? Tell me why so I understand.
So the main needle on the side controls your 1/4 to 3/4 throttle. And right in that half throttle range, it seemed to stumble a little bit. It's opening up on top.
Yeah.
We're getting it to open wide up. But right in that mid-range is stumbling a little bit. So we need to adjust our main needle.
Stumbling because it's not getting enough fuel?
Either or. It depends on how it's stumbling, whether it's getting too much fuel or not enough.
Okay. Okay. All right. Here we go. Are you like me? Do you sometimes do things the wrong way? Are you using a soda bottle with a nipple and a gas line to bottle feed your 3-wheelers when you don't really want to run the tank, when you're diagnosing how to run your 2-stroke? Well, throw this in the garbage. It's time to order Big Bubba from 223 Cycles. This is how it comes. Some assembly required. When you open up your container, this is what you'll find. We just need to install the hanging hook, our gas line with the valve, and then we'll be able to bottle feed our 3-wheeler appropriately. And in less than 2 minutes, we are all assembled. We have to cut the tubing. We cut just a little bit to let the valve be right near the base of Big Bubba. Now we just need to simply add some mixture of fuel, and we are off to the races. So now we're right back to changing stuff, and we didn't have to pull the gas tank. All thanks to Big Bubba. 223cycles.net. Get yours today. It'll make your 3-wheeler run worse. That was a joke. But yeah, cool. I've always wanted one of these. There's one available from another company. We'll just say that. But this is a Curtie original, and I believe the price point is a little better, Curtie.
Yes.
Yes. So we'll let Curtie work. We'll end on a brief advertisement from one of our sponsors. Well, we got just enough daylight to do some speed runs up here at the compound. Curtie's ready. Our entourage is here. Curtie's going to be riding the second gen 250R with the fairing and the 300 kit on it. So we just woke this up from a slumber, cleaned out the airbox from the mice that were living in there, and we're going to see if that's going to need anything. That'll be tonight's work, but the goal of today is to make sure the 85 is dialed, and we'll see. Here we go.
Oh my god! Here he comes.
Sounding good.
I think she rips.
Yeah, I wanted to stop so I can hear you go around.
Did you hear me now?
Oh yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she's coming right up on the pipe.
Yeah, she's happy. She's scary now. What do you think, Bennett?
It's loud.
Yeah?
It's cold too.
You want to take it for a ride?
No.
No.
Sorry, you can ride it.
Oh, we can start it.
I could start it.
It's easier than the 350X.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, we are back in the shop. We had a successful completion of the tuning process. Our speed runs were amazing. This thing has gone from fast to scary fast. And I've told a couple people,
Dialed in.
yeah, you don't realize when it's not running right how much you're missing. And then when you get the carb whisperer in here to get things dialed in proper, where it goes from working its way up to full speed to just on like, you know,
Comes right up on the
like an animal, yeah. So to close this out, I'm going to have Curtie tell us, you know, the condition as found, his initial thoughts, where he needed to go. You know, we did a couple things that made it worse, a couple things made it better, but that told us more about where it needed to go. But tell us what you discovered.
I mean, it's real tedious and you know, it's not fun to do. But you spend the time in tuning in the carburetor, it really makes a huge difference at the end of the day. It makes something that's kind of spongy and boggy and want to rip your arms off because it gets all that all of a sudden to just a linear good pull all the way through the rev range. When it comes to tuning, your foundation is fundamental, just like building a house. You got to have a good foundation. Where your foundation is going to be your pilot circuit and your air screw. So you start there. Don't start with anything else. You always start with there. Tuning the air screw kind of gives you an idea of where we are with a pilot jet. So, of course, there's plenty of videos on how to adjust the air screw, but you're really looking for the highest idle. Whether you're bringing that air screw out, whether you're taking the air screw in, which is adding air or taking away air, for that highest idle. And where that ends up being, you kind of determine where am I at with the pilot jet. All right, so if we're less than a half a turn in, we're going to want to increase that pilot jet. And then you're going to start the process all over again with the air screw because we're changing the pilot jet, we're changing the amount of fuel. So now we need to compensate that with how much air is coming into the circuit. Now, if we're above 3.5 turns out, then we're going to want to decrease the pilot jet.
Curtie was telling me about this. The way I made it make sense to myself was like thinking of like a bike. When you've got, you know, your 3 gears on the front and your 6 or 7 gears on the back. So if you're trying to go as fast as you can on this bike and you work your way down to the smallest gear on the back, you know, you need to, oh, there's my cat. You need to shift up a gear on the front to get that next range. So you've kind of exhausted your range in the that circuit. You know, your adjustability of the air screw in this case is not going to be, you're not going to have the full range of adjustability.
Yeah, you're either maximizing the pilot jet that you have in it or you're letting as little as you can in for the pilot jet. So now we need to adjust the pilot jet.
So that's what made sense to me, I think. It's still pretty confusing, but let's see what else he has to say.
How you doing, honey? How you doing? You say hello? Hello?
And then what?
Well, now we're going to go to stage 2 of tuning. So you want mid-range. So we talked about the pilot jet and air circuit. That's going to affect idle and just off idle up to third throttle. And then we're going to go to your slide and main needle, which is going to affect anywhere from third throttle to three-quarter throttle. So there is adjusting the slide, the height of the main needle, and the number of the slide, because the slides are tunable. Especially like on this PWK, if you turn it upside down, you can see a number stamped, and that number will tell you the richness or the leanness of the slide itself. And then, you kind of play with that back and forth, up a clip, down a clip, which makes it better. And then the third stage is your main jet. So with the main needle essentially fine-tunes the main jet, much like the air screw or fuel screw fine-tunes the pilot jet. We're doing the same thing with the main jet. So as we're dropping the needle, or we're making it leaner, or if we're raising the needle main clip on the bottom, you're richening the main needle. If you're a full rich or full lean, typically you'd want to adjust your main jet, and then obviously start the process back over, taking your main needle to the middle, and then playing with it back and forth. On this guy, we're actually at full lean on the main needle, and I really didn't want to drop the main jet anymore. I'd rather keep a fatter main jet with the main needle being at full lean than to lower the main jet another step and adjust the main needle, because at wide open throttle, I'd rather have a little fatter main jet and keep the main needle lean. So where we ended up on this guy was a 42 pilot jet. Now this is a standard PWK 38. It's not an air striker. So it's letting a lot more air in, a lot more volume. So we're at a 42 pilot jet. We ended up at a turn and was it 3/8?
1 3/8.
Yeah, 1 3/8 out on the air screw. We're at full lean on the main needle, and that's a DGH main needle with a number 7 slide. And where did we end up on the?
Had it written down right over here.
148.
148 main. First clip on the needle, the highest setting. 42 pilot. 138 turns out on the air screw.
Now, in each one of these stages, really, you want to have a fresh plug. Put a fresh plug in each stage, and ride the machine. So when we get the bottom end where we feel that we're dialed in with the pilot jet and air screw, obviously we want to bring the engine up to temperature and ride it around in that 1/3 throttle or less. From idle to third throttle, and just kind of putt around, ride around, feel the response kind of off idle. If it's clean, if it's kind of blubbery, if it's bogging. And then once you do that for a little bit, pull the plug, check the color of the plug. Then when we move to the next stage, we're going to put another clean plug in, warm the machine up, ride it around, and stay within that third to three-quarter throttle. And ride around, check the color of that plug. Again, fresh plug. And then when we do a main jet or a top end check, we're going to warm the machine up, get a full wide open throttle pass, pull the clutch in, kill the machine, coast to a stop, let it cool down, and check the plug, and that tells you exactly where you are with your main jet.
And all in all, I think this is exactly where I want it. Curtie did coach me on my fuel mixture. I was using some AMS oil to begin with, and he said that's not the right oil for my application since I'm not racing. He recommended a Motul 710 40-to-1 mixture, so that's what I'm running now, and it is a happy machine. So thank you very much, Curtie, for the carburetor. Awesome carburetor. If you want a carburetor like this, reach out to 223cycles.net.
We carry a full line of Kean carburetors, genuine Kean carburetors. We get them directly from Kean now since the implosion of Sudco. And there's only a handful of us in the country now that has access to genuine Kean carburetors.
Yeah. Beware of some of the sellers on eBay. They might not be genuine. Get your Big Bubba 223 cycles bottle for off-tank applications.
That did help out a lot.
Yeah.
You know, when we're going back and forth with the main needle instead of pulling that tank every single time trying to get to that, riding around with that guy.
Yeah.
It's kind of annoying it riding around on the handlebars.
Yeah.
But man, did it make a difference?
Just
I
an
get right in
easybility,
there
yep.
And pull the slide and change the main needle and go out again.
Any carb kits, carb restoration services, Curtie is the man when it comes to all that. So thank you very much, Curtie. I appreciate you coming up here and taking care of this for me. And hopefully we've got a couple other videos for you. And stay tuned for those. And we will catch you next time, whether it's Trike Fest or the Mud Flats or wherever you'll see us around. So Wheeler Palooza. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.